All right, so I just hit start, everyone. So we are filming and we are live, and we are with one of the candidates for Council District 42 right now. So we'll give it another moment to see if the other candidates may be logged in, perhaps as an attendee. And in that, oh, yes, they both are actually. I
Oh,
see them here. So we will bring them right over and we'll begin all together. Here we go, Nikki Lucas. And here we go, Wilfredo Florentino.
says Zoom didn't start for the audience. Have you started for the audience yet?
Zoom did start for the audience, and these two candidates were in the audience. So welcome to the panel.
I just got an email that Zoom didn't start for audience. So you're sure it did? Okay.
So welcome, everyone. Now we have our three candidates here. And just so everyone who is watching,
everyone.
Someone just texted me and said Zoom didn't begin for audience.
Yeah, I got that too.
Nope, the Zoom is on for the audience, because guess what? There are people in the audience. I see them, including you, Josh Schneps. I see you in the audience. Okay, everyone. So here we go. Welcome. This is Politics NY with Sky and with Steve with a tie.
Hi.
We have that little rhyme in the beginning because it's fun. It makes it fun. So just to be clear, this is the debate/discussion for New York City Council District 42 in Brooklyn. And we, Schneps Media Politics NY, we invited all the candidates on the ballot for this district to be part of this debate. So the three of you are here with us, and we are so thrilled because our goal is to amplify your voices to the voters so that they can best get a sense of who you are when it's time to vote in June. So welcome. So this is for District 42. It's the seat currently held by Inez Barron in Brooklyn, and it includes East New York, New Lots, Remsen Village, Spring Creek, and Starrett City. And when I looked at it on the map, it looks like there are a bunch of little islands, and that confused Steve a little bit, but we can talk about how this district includes, maybe they're abandoned. I've never been there, but maybe we'll hear from you council hopefuls about it. So I'd like to also take a moment to thank our partners at the Brooklyn Public Library who are working with us to promote voter education and engagement for the 2021 local elections, because this year more than ever, it is so important that everyone gets out to vote. We have ranked choice voting, which is a confusing process. So we hope a lot of people vote, and maybe we'll see some winners that were unexpected. So thank you so much to the Brooklyn Public Library, to Schneps Media, and Politics NY. This fast and fun little forum is being recorded, and everything can be found on our website, politicsny.com, and the debates are at politicsny.com/debates. So let's just begin. I know we're beginning slightly late. We like to keep this 1 hour nice, so we'll end at 6. Let's begin with little introductions. We'll do 90 seconds each. Since there's 3 of you, we can have a little bit longer time together, 90 seconds each. And tell us what makes you the best candidate. Tell us a little bit about your background, but most importantly, what makes you the best choice for the voters. Let's begin with Charles Barron.
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And to my opponents, good to see you. Stay safe, stay healthy, and let's keep doing good work in our community. I have the experience, proven track record, 3 new $100 million schools. We have over 16,000 units of real affordable housing that we ushered in. We're not gentrified like other neighborhoods. We have a brand new youth center, the PJ Youth Center, Prince Joshua Youth Center. We're able to get over $50 million of scholarships in the years I've been on the education committee at the city council for CUNY students. We were able to go also this time around during the pandemic, we were able to get over 2,000 masks for our people, gallons of sanitizer, was able to make sure that districts, places in our district had vaccination centers and had, matter of fact, in Starrett City, had test centers. We worked on that. We got $2.3 billion for rent relief and another $575 million for mortgage relief. I have the experience, proven track record, and in this emergency and with a lot of stuff and projects that we have in the hopper, You have to have some experience to know how to get them through, and know how to get them completed. We have new ideas, and those new ideas will be surrounding around community land trusts and worker cooperatives. And we have a lot of new projects coming into the districts. And I just think I would be the best candidate for this position.
Thank you. Let's hear from Nikki Lucas next.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you so much for having me here. Good evening to the other candidates, the other formidable candidates, which I'm excited to be amongst them. I'll begin with why I'm running. The community has been stagnant for the past 20 years. We are highest in homelessness. We're highest amongst the highest in gun violence, police brutality. We've watched as the community has been unprepared when it came to the privatization of NYCHA. We have been consistently watching as developers come in without sustainable jobs and offering it to our community, knocking down home ownership opportunities. I think it's wonderful, some of the things that we've been able to achieve with a rec center. However, we need a performing arts hub that embodies and embraces technology, that also has opportunities for incubators and businesses to grow. We really, during the pandemic, we understood and saw that the community was severely unprepared. Our seniors were isolated, completely not aware of how to work tablets if they even received it. And these are things that we should have been making investments in to make sure that our community was prepared and moving forward. I'm running because we have an educational system in which we are lacking guidance counselors and social workers, where many of our students are homeless, coming to school in severe trauma. And I'm running because I really want to make sure that we have continued relationships, and we're actually legislating so that we can correct some of these concerns that are happening, that we can partner with other levels of government so that we can bring additional resources into this community and bring us out of a stagnant state into the 21st century, and which is something that I've yielded within my plan called the 21st Century Rescue Plan. We have to be rescued out of a state of stagnation.
I know I didn't mention anything about the time, but yes, we're going to keep time. Thank you, Nikki.
Yeah. I gave everybody a leeway of 30 extra seconds because there's only 3 candidates, so you have 2 minutes.
We'll do 2 minutes on everything.
Yes.
Okay. Wilfredo Florentino.
Thank you all so very much. My name is Wilfredo Florentino. I'm a husband, a father, a United States Army veteran, lifelong Brooklynite and community advocate. I'm the son of immigrants who survived on food stamps and Section 8 and have dedicated my life to service, from working in grassroots community organizing, city and state government, and the nonprofit sector. I've served as a Brooklyn Community Board member for the past 10 years, the majority of that time as chair of the Transportation Committee. With my husband, we founded the only theater company in East Brooklyn focused on producing socially relevant theater based on community experiences. And I have seen firsthand how the city regularly disregards community voice and is reactionary instead of being proactive and inclusive. One specific example is the most recent racist East New York rezoning, which our community board vehemently opposed and the council voted for. Additionally, our community has won the first cease and desist zone through the hard work of so many, the first cease and desist zone in the borough of Brooklyn, which will ensure and be a backstop to the impacts of the racist rezoning and the gentrification that's trying to be shoved down our throats in our community. Our campaign is focused on ensuring equity, justice, and transparency, and giving the power really back to the people who deserve it.
Thank you. Now, each of the 3 of you mentioned a variety of issues in your opening statement. So let's run with one issue. If each of you could pick one issue, maybe we'll go backwards for fun. So Wilfredo, if you want to pick one of the issues and talk about why that's the top issue for you and your candidacy, and then what would make you uniquely qualified to tackle that?
Yes, thank you so much, Sky. So one of the issues obviously is affordable housing. in our community. Affordable housing is an issue all across the city, but in our community, having been disenfranchised and disinvested for so many years, we bear the brunt in a very unique way. And although some affordable housing has been built, we have seen the rise of homelessness and homeless shelters in our community. One of the efforts that we've been working with is the Community Land Trust Initiative. The Community Land Trust Initiative is one where the land is given back to the people, and it ensures that the land remains affordable in perpetuity. It ensures that not just land is available for individuals to live in, but it ensures that commercial properties will remain affordable to the individuals in the community. And so more initiatives like the Community Land Trust Initiative is what we need to be focused on and where we should be moving towards as a city, as opposed to giving our land, giving the people's land to developers with no vested interest, to ensure that that land remains affordable for the folks that live in the community.
Now, would either one of the other candidates up here like to respond to anything that Wilfredo said or build upon that before we go to a different issue?
Well, I don't think we should be responding to each other. He had the right to initiate what he wants, so we can initiate what we
Yes.
have to say.
Totally.
It's very easy to point out problems. Every Black community in the country has the problems that we can point out, of poverty, of crime, of homelessness. Barack Obama was a Black president and couldn't solve all of that. So the question is not you pointing them out, what have you done about them? And so we take pride in the fact that around homelessness, we brought in 16,000 units of real affordable housing, affordable to the incomes of the people in our community. No one can deny that. And when they tried to build another shelter, because we are oversaturated with shelter. When I was an activist, I was fighting against that before I even got in. When they tried to build another shelter, Help Homes, Inc., we stopped it and demanded that they do 300 units of housing in the shelter. No, 500 units of housing. We had the mayor come in to the councilwoman and myself, and we got 200 spots for permanent housing for homeless people. When they tried to turn another homeless shelter, move out the families and spread them out and bring in a women's shelter, we stopped it. The Commissioner Banks called us up and said, because of your work, 96 families will be in permanent apartments. Nobody could match that. It's because it's easy to attack or point out problems and say we have problems, but we were a part of the solution. And I think it's critical at this time to have the experienced leadership that has proven deliverables and has productively produced and answered problems. Unemployment, we created over 2,000 jobs in the new mall area. We don't just say we have the most unemployment, we have the most shelters, we have the most poverty, we have the most crime. Got to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. I know. And to be clear, Wilfredo brought up his point. I asked the candidates if you would like to respond to it. So Charles, you will have a chance to bring up your own issue that you'd like, and I'll ask the candidates to respond to that as well.
Okay.
So Nikki, did you want to talk about this issue, or we can move on to another issue?
Certainly. When it comes to housing, it's fantastic. We've seen a lot of development come up within the community. Unfortunately, it's inconsistent with the fact that we are, in fact, the highest when it comes to homelessness within the city. And that face of homelessness is not just attached to shelters. There are working families that are doubling up in one-bedroom apartments. So we need to correctly place the face of what homelessness truly looks like. That's number one. Number two is that we need to make sure that when development is going up, that the jobs are unionized and sustainable so that the people that actually are working on these sites can afford to actually live here and rent the apartments or even buy homes. The other part of it is that we need to make sure that we have a permanent set-asides, so our community is not losing on that when they are not qualifying for those things. We need to also pay attention to the idea of homeowners, because we have a blended community. and making sure that they are experiencing tax breaks so they can make necessary upgrades on their homes, and that we also make a real investment into the basement apartment conversion program to give more opportunities at more housing and give the homeowners an opportunity to really grow income. So those are just a few ideas to add to some of the things that we talked about today, but those are actually real solutions that can be found in my 21st Century Rescue Plan.
I want to thank Ms. Lucas for bringing up the basement conversion, because that's Inez Barron's bill in the city council on basement conversion. So I want to thank you for bringing that up. And in addition to that, all of the 16,000 units of housing that we brought into the district, every last one of them have set aside for homeless, and has set aside for veterans, and some of them even has set aside for teachers. So all of the developments that we have participated in, they have set asides. And now what we're working on is some set asides for the healthcare workers in Brookdale Hospital, because a lot of them, y'all would be shocked at some of the essential workers that are living out of their cars, almost, some of them. So we have some projects coming in to have set asides for some of the essential workers.
Mhm.
So I'm specifically speaking about more permanent set asides, just to credit, I believe it was both Inez Barron as well as Rafael Espinal. I can't remember the other person, maybe Mr. Barron remembers that, but ultimately that program was defunded. And they ultimately came back and they recently did another vote to bring it back to make sure that there was additional funding with that. The basement apartment conversion program, they stopped it.
That's not accurate. That program is definitely Inez Barron's program. It was funded and it's working. The other piece is that
it's funded and defunded. The 9 people they decided to keep there, they put the program on hold.
They got an extension. It was an extension, Nikki.
They had to do another law, another vote in order to do that, which they recently did over the past year.
I will mention that the basement legalization program in its implementation has really not been what it was presented to be. The concept itself is absolutely brilliant, and we do need to. It's an absolutely brilliant program. It has worked in many other places. It needs to work in our community, but unfortunately, the way in which it has been implemented in East New York, the pilot program has been an absolute abject failure. And the numbers. We need to look at the numbers that relate to the basement legalization program. And I encourage folks to do the research on their own. When the program came to pass, I wrote an op-ed. I interviewed a number of local homeowners, of which I'm a member of the New Lots Nehemiah Homeowners Association, individuals that had insurmountable issues in trying to access the program. Our local organization that worked tirelessly, Cypress Hills LDC, worked tirelessly to address some of those issues that are still prevalent. And so the program needs to move forward in such a way that it will not carve out individuals that want to participate.
Those issues have been moving forward. Let me just say another thing. You mentioned the program, the 6,000 units of housing that came in. Inez Barron was the only council member to vote against that. And I think some of you may have worked on that to stop that from coming in, but the mayor and Espinal brought it in anyway. So we have a lot of issues and a lot of programs that actually work. Some, I agree with you, need some fixing up. And that's why you need experienced leadership to be in there that knows how to move through the state assembly and the city council to work on these things.
I have a question. Your district is probably in the last couple of years has the biggest economic development, private economic development in Brooklyn, with Amazon moving in. And at the same time, you said, and I'm just broadly speaking, Wilfredo, you're a member of the community board, and you weren't inclusive on letting the community to weigh in on that. And the other thing on this, in Alabama, which was a similar plan in Amazon, which was mainly Black, They voted against unionization. And a lot of people speak about unionization. There's public sector and private sector unionization. It's created thousands of jobs in the district. Am I wrong? Or has the potential for that?
Amazon, you know, we stopped Walmart.
I'd like you to weigh in on the Amazon.
So Steve, I'll jump in since you directed the question to me, and so it's only appropriate. But unfortunately, as folks understand, when those types of businesses open up in our community, they rarely and regularly disregard the local community. And Amazon has never come to a community board meeting. They've never engaged with the community. And that is part and parcel of the issues that we experience, that communities like ours experience when, you know, these businesses open up as of right and feel no interest in engaging with local folks. And so we absolutely still have to bring Amazon to the table. Amazon must come to the table to ensure that employment opportunities are directed to local folks, that there are business incubators that they will pay for. In many other cities, Amazon has gone so far as to fund local parks. I mean, there are ways that we can hold multi-billion-dollar companies like Amazon accountable, but they need to come to the table. And we have continuously demanded that they come to the table, and they don't just open up as of right, as if they are, the best thing since sliced bread. They need to come to us, they need to talk to us, and they need to engage with us first, not as an afterthought, but in the pre-planning process.
But see, the only thing about that, Steve, is that Amazon, everybody knows we don't need to talk to them about giving us a park. They need to get out of our community. Amazon is the most abusive, just like we stopped Walmart. Some of these leaders in our community were saying Walmart's going to bring jobs out there in Gateway. We stopped it. They said we couldn't. The Barrons ain't going to stop Walmart. They're too powerful. We did. And now we got over 2,000 jobs out there with ShopRite that is unionized and some other things. Amazon doesn't need to be having a discussion about a park in our community. That's absurd. This is the most oppressive working conditions. They're racist, they're sexist, they don't unionize. In addition to that, they do part-time work so they don't have to give you any benefits. The problem was that they don't have to, Wolf's right about that, they don't talk to nobody because the private property person has a right to just give it to them. And that's what they did. We called up the Department of Buildings and said, we want y'all to stop it because of the traffic congestion by there, the Environmental Protection Agency, EPC and DEP and DEC, the trucks that are coming and all of that, pollution in the air. So we gave it our shot. We even had demonstrations in front of that to stop, not to ask them to come to the table, to tell them to get out of our community.
So this is a classic case of just continuously fighting from behind. The ShopRite jobs are also part-time and,
No, they're full-time. They have full-time jobs.
I'm sorry, I allowed you to speak.
Nikki, talk.
They are, low-paying wage jobs as well. When Walmart came in tried to come in 10 years ago, I thought it was a great move for Mr. Barron to really stop that. Like it was fine because of the conditions that Walmart treated their workers. Yeah. Unfortunately, what happened is that in that time between the 10 and 15 years, there was no studies done to find an environmentally sound or good community partner and other businesses that could come into the district. That is precisely what the local development corp should have been invested in. It should have been an investment from the city council to say, hey, let's do a study. Let's figure out what kind of jobs we can bring into this community. How can we support incubators so that we can help people grow businesses? Instead, we had a gateway built with continuous sewage problems for the corridor of small businesses that are there, that nothing's being done about it. And on top of that, we don't have any investment in a local people who have access to the main mall. No Black-owned franchises. These are things that we have a problem with. And until we really address making a real investment in jobs and what can come into this community as good community partners, we're going to keep having the same discussion over and over again. But this is
There's no
exactly what my
black-owned
plan
businesses.
and my
No,
plan
that's not true.
entails,
There is a
and
black-owned
exactly
business.
what it is.
Black-owned business.
All right,
On the
let
corridor,
Nikki
on the
finish
corridor,
up.
on the corridor.
There's
And so
black-owned business,
ultimately, this is
a
really
restaurant.
what my 21st century plan lays out in terms of being able to create jobs and encourage and support businesses and even the existing businesses that are there, because we need to have a plan for that to grow this economy, especially after this pandemic.
Well, we were very instrumental in getting Fusion East, the Black-owned restaurant in that mall area. They wanted to put Burger Your Way there, but we got Fusion East, a Black-owned restaurant. And you can have all the wonderful plans you want. And matter of fact, all of us are responsible for what happens in our community. When I was an activist, before I got into elected office, I didn't just point to all of the electeds and say, you ain't doing this, you ain't doing this. I got a plan for the 21st century. What have you accomplished? What have you produced? Not everybody can have wonderful blueprints and plans for the 21st century, but we have to deal with the fact that our people are hurting right now in our community. And we were able to get thousands of jobs. You can diss the low paying jobs all you want, but for some of those young people in there, it is the best thing that could have happened. And we have middle management positions as well. And they've gotten a lot out of that, over 2,000 some odd jobs. So you could poo-hoo it all you want, but the bottom line, I don't suggest you go into these stores and tell these young people that secured this and it's doing a little something for them. Of course, the wages should be higher. We're trying to fight for living wages, but we got a lot for our people in that mall, and we do have a Black business.
Let's just be clear. Mr. Barron attacked Amazon for having low paying wages. And he highlighted ShopRite. So that's the reason why I pointed to ShopRite.
No, I understand that.
That those two are low paying wages.
Let's let Nikki talk.
That those two are low paying wages. And this is the reason why I addressed that issue when it came to that. We really need to make a clear investment in really bringing higher paying wages, real job training to make sure that our community has access to that. When our college students come home, they have appropriate jobs where they can live into this community, that we are supporting union sustainable jobs that are career-driven jobs so that people can stay in the community and invest in purchasing homes, co-ops or condos, which is something else we need to be able to explore.
Isn't Target in Gateway too?
Yes.
They're non-union.
Important.
You got to speak to your council member.
We have
your
home
assembly
ownership.
member.
We do have home ownership. We brought in some new jobs. We do have worker training, and the unions said they wanted ShopRite. The union said they wanted ShopRite because they could unionize and pay some decent wages. To compare Amazon to ShopRite lacks a lot of knowledge about economic development. There is no comparison between these two places. And you talk to some of your union folk, and they're the ones who said, we would like to see ShopRite there, and we're going to work on job development. So, you know, we've developed thousands of jobs. We're the only ones sitting here that can say we actually developed jobs. Everybody else, they can criticize it, but they've developed none. We've even created scholarships. I have a $20 million Martin Luther King scholarship fund for CUNY students because, you know, they get their tuition paid from TAP, but the non-tuition costs, you know, things like books and food and transportation and childcare, we got 20 million for them. And over the years, I've gotten even more. So the very things that people say they have a vision for, we've done.
Well, part of that, though, if I may add in, is you and your wife have been in power for 20 years. Do you feel that, I mean, it's kind of the elephant in the room. Do you think that other people maybe should have another chance or?
First of all, we're not elephants, number one.
I know that. Excuse me,
This is not a crapshoot. This is not about gambling and taking chances. The bottom line is some of these candidates and some of these people supported the machine for 30 years and never complained about them being there too long. And even though the machine was there for 30 years, it took our 20 years to renovate Linden Park and 4 other parks. It took our 20 years to get the kinds of things that we got around housing, 100% affordability. No community has 3 new schools. You can't top that in any place in the state. 3 brand new schools. Inez Barron said that our children are going to get out of those trailers on Linden Boulevard, and she did it. We have a $111 million East New York Family Academy, newly built. We did that. So it's not about how long you've been in, it's how strong and how well and what you've done. But these same folks that are complaining about how long we've been in, they supported some of these machine candidates for 30 years who didn't do nearly as enough.
With all due respect, Mr. Barron, you are the machine candidate.
No, we're not. The machine,
you are in fact the machine
Frank Sedio and
you are the machine. You are part of the machine, and you are the machine candidate. You have been supported by the machine in the past for your district leader races. You are district leader, male and female. The assembly, the city council.
You're not
right is the only.
I think that this conversation is a distraction.
By the machine. And
this is a distraction.
Right, yeah,
Sky and Steve, y'all need to get the reins on this conversation. This is all a distraction about the issues that matter to the people, about who is the machine and who ain't.
Yes or no? I want to be clear on Amazon. Are you okay with working with Amazon if they came to the table to keep Amazon in the district, or do you want them out?
I want them out.
We want them out.
We ultimately want them out.
Everyone wants them out. They're not paying living wages. They're not unionized jobs. We definitely want them out. That property should be given to the community so that we can develop it, and we can preferably create an incubator for so many entrepreneurs that we have in our community that don't have an opportunity to get the level up that they desperately deserve.
Okay. Let's go as Wilfredo made the first thing that is #1 issue is affordable housing, correct?
Oh.
Yes. So
that was the first question, Steve. I think we forgot.
We
deviated a bit from that first question, but let's continue.
What would be your #1 thing, Nikki, and then Charles?
I think Wilfredo kind of pointed very well. Affordable housing is very key. We have to heavily advocate against privatizing NYCHA, finding additional ways to fund it, and working across the aisle with other elected officials, as well as on a state and federal level, to identify real funding for this and advocate against the privatization, which will ultimately lead to a number of displacement. We haven't had electeds on our local level who have been working with other electeds. And in order for us to resolve this issue, this is exactly what it's going to require. Community-based organizations, the input from other community residents, as well as working across the board with other electeds to make sure that we resolve this. But that is something that needs to stop. We have to make sure, again, I think I pointed it out earlier. I feel like I'm saying it again. We have to preserve home ownership. We have to make sure that we are protecting and developing more home ownership opportunities by investing in programs like NACA, by investing in Habitat for Humanities. Those are programs that are really designed to help and grow people in financial literacy. We have to make sure that we're investing in that as well. And if we really want to see our community evolve out of homelessness and see our working families evolve out of homelessness, we have to prioritize investment in things that would allow that to happen.
Mr. Barron, what would be your?
I would like to say this. One, In terms of Habitat for Humanity, we secured funding for them from the state. So see, a lot of things that people talk about need to happen, have happened, already happened. As far as working with people across the board, where you live in Star Red City, we worked with Ed Towns, we worked with John Sampson at the time when he was in office. We worked with Chuck Schumer to stop a buyer from purchasing your home, your place for $2 billion and kicking y'all out. We united that, we organized that. Back then was also Acorn, and we stopped them. And this time around, we still work for them. But I think one of the main problems, and this is a difficult one for our people all over the country, poverty. I think poverty is a real problem, because if you don't have an income, if you don't have wealth, and I believe home ownership is the basis for building that wealth, if you don't raise the area median income in our neighborhoods, like we're looking into developing, I got $100 million from the state for a not-for-profit home ownership and affordable housing development. We have to get a dent in poverty. It's connected to crime, it's connected to homelessness, it's connected to a lot of our mental health issues, and we are demanding, and when I get to City Hall, that 98-point-something billion budget, I'm gonna fight hard to have a large portion of that be for anti-poverty. Same thing I was doing in the state. We got some this time around, but I think it was more of a federal one-shot deal than it was coming from the state. Poverty is a real challenge in all Black communities across this city and across this state.
Mhm.
You know, Alika Samuel, who's the head of the Public Housing Committee for the City Council, said that she would like to keep it up to each NYCHA development if they wanted RAD, which is a private developer in there, rather than a blanket, a blanket like no private developers. And she feels that each development should have a say into if there's any development in that particular development.
Well, the bottom line is that's what's going to happen. The tenants will determine that. But what's happening in our development, and we've been meeting with them over the years, we're looking at 40 billion may be coming from the feds. They're trying to get it up to 80 billion. We've been meeting regularly with the tenants from Penn Workman, the tenants from Linden, and the tenants from Boulevard. They want to bring the program there. We said to them, it's your decision. We're for public housing, stay in public. They want to transfer the Section 9 money, which is public money, into Section 8 to give it to a private developer. So we said, if someone should own and develop and operate, it should be the tenants. So we're looking now at a formula, and this could happen when the federal money comes in, to hold up on RAD and PAC, because we need to keep it public, and maybe use that money to have the tenants, just like you're giving it to L&M and some of these private folk, you're giving them Section 8 money and you're giving them federal money. Why not have the tenants do that? So we've been working with tenants. Some want PAC and RAD, some don't. We said it's your decision, but we've been there with them while others been on the outside just talking.
Mhm.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, look, this RAD and the blueprint, these are programs that was talked about 15 years ago. You know, Mr. Barron did 12 years in the city council. We were experiencing poverty back then. And these programs were being discussed back then. There, under no circumstances should the city's biggest asset or a real estate portfolio be given over to any private developers.
Right.
They were initially being told that this was just management. It wasn't management. You have a 99-year lease. That's insane. So when you threaten to take it out of a Section 9 and you remove it into a Section 8, you are really at that point getting rid of affordability in of itself. You're getting rid of affordability, and that is ultimately going to lead to people being displaced. Those folks that are fair market, they're going to be priced out. There's no way. So without giving people and informing the community, because I'm still getting calls about this, people are calling me because they're asking people to sign off on things that one page of a lease. These are things that's happening. These are the discussions I'm currently having with people in terms of doing the work. I spoke about this openly in regards to allowing the tenants to basically take ownership of themselves and manage the properties themselves. I was told by elected officials that the tenants are not capable of doing that.
Not this election.
If you educate, not Mr. Barron, not you, Mr. Barron. That's one thing I'm going to agree with you on.
Wilfredo, you want to weigh in?
Absolutely. Listen, I agree with Congressmember Velasquez, who introduced the bill to fully fund capital repairs at NYCHA. It's highlighted in a Gotham Gazette op-ed that I wrote back in June, of 2020. Additionally, money, can be found to fully fund repairs at NYCHA without having to privatize through a progressive tax structure, which will include raising taxes on corporations, millionaires, and billionaires. So the money is there without having to privatize NYCHA.
But you know what they're doing, and this is what we all got to unite and fight this. As we talking right now, and we've been meeting with the 3 developments, they are going in their apartments, demanding that they inspect them. I'm telling them, don't let them in.
And don't sign nothing.
Don't sign anything. Number 2. And number 3, the bottom line, the tenants have the power. If they don't sign over to Section 8, it can't happen. See, what they're trying to do is transfer their public lease and turn it into a private lease. If they do that, I keep telling them this little superficial fix-up that they want to do in your apartment, you are going to be in big trouble. So right now, and you're correct, the 99-year lease is ridiculous. So we're saying we don't want it at all. But you know what is hard, y'all, on the real side? Some of our tenants have been hurt so long. So they're saying, look, I don't care who, pack, rag, fix my place. It's been too long. But NYCHA even had a nerve to go to court and say they don't want to do the mold, that they don't want to do the mold. And so the private folk won't even have to do the mold. But I think if we all unite, I think we had Nydia's person come to our meeting. We had about almost 100 residents at it. And we're talking to Schumer's office. They need to get 80 billion from Biden, and 40 of that comes straight to New York for NYCHA because they have a $32 billion repair. That's what we're fighting for. And the tenants can manage. They can do it.
So I want to get moving on the next topic because another question came in about education. And I know that Mr. Barron, you mentioned your work bringing education in the schools to the community. I want to open up to Nikki and Wilfredo to talk about education. And then of course we can come back to you to talk about it more. But the question specifically was, what are you doing to help the schools and children and education? Let's go to Wilfredo first.
Yes, thankfully, I have two little girls under the age of 3 who are about to enter pre-K, and so education is an issue that really hits home, literally and figuratively. As a campaign, we've worked with community to really come up with a plan for ensuring that our educational system is equitable, unfortunately, our current educational system is entirely segregated, and your zip code and who your parents are really determine the type of education that you get, and that is absolutely unconscionable. As a city, we must prioritize. As a city and a community, we must prioritize STEAM and STEM education, which allows students to engage in experiential learning. Additionally, we must prioritize higher education in our community. We're focused, obviously, as important as it is, on K through 12, but opportunities for apprenticeship programs and post grade school education is absolutely critical in our community, and partnering to ensure that our folks have an opportunity to earn a trade for those individuals that do not want to go to college is something that we must lead in our community.
And Nikki.
So some of the things that I've learned, I have a 15-year-old that's about to be 16. And the educational system is something that I've had to navigate through, which was very difficult in the beginning. My daughter happened to have gone to a school that was being phased out. She was in a gifted and talented program, which ultimately led to the school failing. And her being bused into another community for a school choice, which was very disheartening and disappointing. Some of the things that I witnessed in that school was the children, when they were so-called misbehaved, that the EMT was called and they were hauled out of that school and taken off to a mental facility. And these are things that our children are entering in on a daily basis, being traumatized. You're already talking about them being traumatized by either walking through the communities, experiencing the violence, their parents may not be working, the homelessness height. And now you're walking in with a school that lacks the resources or the sensitivity to address the needs of community. And so they are additionally being punished within the educational system. And this is where you're looking at that whole pipeline to prison. And in order for us to really be able to appropriately address that, we have to make sure that there are appropriate services that's available, wraparound services that are available not only for the students, but for the educators as well as the parents. So we need to have more social workers in these schools. We need to have more guidance counselors in these schools. We need to integrate conflict resolution in terms of how they're dealing with their conflicts with each other in and outside of the schools. And we need to make a real investment in the aesthetics. When we're looking at Thomas Jefferson School, we need to make sure that we're investing in culture and performing arts and investing in building a football field. These are things that we just don't have in our community. And we absolutely need to prioritize investment in those things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well,
And
first of all, once again, it's easy to point out problems and say what needs to be done. But let's talk about what has been done. Thomas Jefferson High School, we renovated the swimming pool so that children can now go swimming. The basketball courts, we renovated that. The auditorium, we gave money for that. Just about all the schools, or many schools in our districts, we got computer labs, science labs out of the city council budget because the state and the other places were short on that. We got science labs and a recording studio, two recording studios right in across the street, down the block. Gershwin has a recording studio. So, you know, these are things that we've done. We don't just highlight the problem and say what needs to be done, but that's how we address it. And most importantly, the campaign for fiscal equity money for education. You know, our schools, the court said they owe our schools $6 billion. They paid $2 billion because of racism. They denied our schools. Inez championed it. Robert Jackson, Senator Jackson championed it from Harlem, and I championed it. And this year, we got $1.4 billion commitment for the next 3 years to pay the campaign for fiscal equity debt. I spoke to the new chancellor. She said, we're gonna make sure that our after-school programs, our capital projects are gonna be funded now. And we had to do it until we got this money. So there's a lot that has to be done, but you got to talk about what you've actually done, because pointing to problems is one thing, coming up with solutions concretely is another.
How many gifted and talented programs are in the district currently?
I don't know exact number, but you know, gifted and talented is not what we're fighting for. just like the specialized high school test. We are against that because all schools should be made special, and all middle school students have the capacity to deal with the curriculum in these specialized high schools. As a matter of fact, a lot of middle school students who didn't get into the specialized high school because they didn't pass the test, they had to go to other high schools, and they wound up in Yale. They wound up in Harvard. And some of the people that passed the test and got into the specialized high school didn't do as well. So I'm not into, having elitist structure.
How do the other candidates feel about that? Really, I know we have 4 minutes left.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
A blended structure. Some people are not great with taking tests. Some people are. And I think that we should make sure that we are not creating a rubric around what that looks like. It really depends on the child. So I think there should be a blended opportunity, a blended model.
Wilfredo?
Yes, I completely agree. The standardized test is a racist test just because of the results of the test and the opportunities that are afforded to Black and brown students across the city. Our education system is racist, and it is imbalanced. And the first step is that we need to direct funding to ensure that your education doesn't depend on where you live in the city and who your parents are and what zip code you live in.
And by the way, we have the Heck-Galandra bill. That is the bill that brought the test in the first place in the state. We're going to have that repealed. I'm one of the co-sponsors of that bill. So that way, if that's repealed, y'all, then we won't have to worry about the test will be gone, and then let the city determine how the policy that's going to be for.
I'm just curious. I'm sorry, and then we'll give them their close. Nikki, you said your daughter was in gifted and talented.
Yes, she was.
And then they bust her out of the district because there was none.
She actually got a 99 percentile, and they still went through a lottery system, which is why I'm so anti-lottery systems when it comes to schools, when it comes to housing. We just have to work together to do a lot more to get rid of those systems because it never benefits Black and brown people.
Okay. Sorry, I don't mean to cut anyone off. We have 2 minutes left, and I want to give everyone time to have their last word. So maybe take just 1 minute each. I know some questions came in about small businesses and job revitalization in the community. So maybe your conclusion can be more of like an outlook on, and include that if you wanted to, an outlook on the district and COVID recovery, and conclude all in 1 minute.
Yeah, I know. Questions.
I know it's a lot. Okay, Wilfredo,
we could run.
Thank you so much, Sky. Again, thank you, Sky. Thank you, Steve, and everyone watching, as well as Mrs. Lucas and Mr. Barron. So just want to conclude with the fact that we are at a crossroads in our city, and the decision that we make on the 22nd is not just going to impact this current election, but will impact our city for years to come. I encourage folks to please visit wilfredoflorentino.com/platform. We have created the most inclusive platform, in this race. Our platform was informed by community, wholly and completely formed by community. The New Deal for East Brooklyn to ensure that we get out of this recovery in a just state. Again, thank you also very much for your time.
Thank you. And Nikki Lucas.
Great. Just want to close with one, vote Nikki Lucas between June 12th and the 20th, as well as on June 22nd. I want to thank everyone here for giving me the opportunity to speak, and as well as the other candidates for coming on this platform. Look, we've been fighting from behind for a really long time over the past 20 years. We are highest when it comes to a number of different things with that are negative, like homelessness, like brutality, like gun violence, when it comes to the digital divide. And these are things that have to be addressed. And as the next city council person, just so that we know, one, I've been doing the work in this community for quite some time in a number of different areas as a non-elected. And I'm excited and proud to have done it. And I will continue to do it. But at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we have real solutions for real change and innovative ideas to move forward, especially coming out of this pandemic. And we need to make sure that we're working across the board with other electeds, other communities. We are inclusive, and we're bringing additional funding to really roll this district out, and so that we're competitive with the city.
Thank you. And Charles Barron.
I want to encourage you to make Charles Barron your #1 choice. We are proven leadership, experienced leadership. We have the most deliverable and productive agenda. We stopped gentrification in our neighborhood from happening. 16,000 units of real affordable housing. We had new homes built for homeowners, and every issue that you mentioned, crime, we helped fund Man Up Inc. And through a 365-day period in a marked out area, there was not one single death. So no one on this panel is going to cut out crime, no matter what they tell you. But we have put a dent in it by offering Man Up Inc., Cure Violence, and other programs to deal with crime. We have homeowners that we've worked with. May he rest in peace, Mr. Mel Faulkner, who worked in my office, saved over 100 families from foreclosure. 100 in our office. Mr. Mel Faulkner, may he rest in peace. We've gotten 5 parks renovated for over $40 million. If you ask the Parks Department, they will tell you we are #1 in the city. When I came into East New York in office, there was 67% Black and 16% Latino. We are now over 72% Black and 20% Latino. We had an increase.
I have to.
No gentrification. Make Charles Barron your #1 choice.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the candidates. Thank you to our live audience who's watching. This was recorded. Thank you to my co-host Steve and to our partners at the Brooklyn Library for pushing out your messages on behalf of Schneps Media and PoliticsNY. We appreciate it. We're here for you to provide your voice to the community. Thanks for being part of this, and take care. Good luck and good night.
And y'all have,
Nikki Lucas.
Thank you all so very much.
thank you.
Right.
Good night.